So lately, the new hot cash cow in Japan, being marketed to weeaboos in the West, has been Sword Art Online. By the name of it, you might think it's the newest free-to-play video game craze for middle schoolers to play on school computers in class, on their phone, or at home on their cheap Walmart laptop when they get burnt out from playing RuneScape. However, it's not that. Instead, it's an anime that seems to be extremely polarizing. Either you're 13 years old and you'll love it, or you'll think it's hot garbage. And a lot of people on sites like YouTube, IMDb, or My Anime List seem to think that Sword Art Online is in fact hot garbage. The whole premise helped kick off a new wave of anime targeting lonely neckbeard gamers. It's about some MMO in the future where players get trapped in the game, and if they die in the game, they die in real life. Heh, get it? If you die in the game, you die in real life. It's so great. It's not like there were actually two games from Bandai Namco about this same premise released in the early 2000s, which were Digimon World 3 and Dot Hack. No, 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 no. This is completely original. So, it was popular, and so that meant that they kept milking the shit out of it. So apparently, in later seasons of this, the show revolved around other games. There was this season, or a few episodes at least, about this shitty shooter game, which apparently players were dying playing it, blah blah blah. So they made a game about it and called it Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet, and it just so happens that by the time Gamefly sent me this game, they're airing an anime that's a spin-off about this game that's featured in both a few episodes and this video game. Oh, wow, so amazing, right? Like they're totally not milking it or anything. Anyhow, let's talk about Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet for the Xbox One. So, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet is this game which falls under the genre of single player games that emulate MMO mechanics, and it also has a co op mode and one of those multiplayer but co op battle modes. It's developed by Dimps, which, just like TOS and some other developers, is one of those developers that'll develop anything really if you hand them enough cash and say, this is what I want. When you fire up the game, you get to create your own character, and it feels like a somewhat more in-depth version of the basic kind of character creator you'll find in, say, Phantasy Star Online or Universe. You can tweak a lot of things such as eye color, body size, and more, but it's not as in-depth as in, say, Monster Hunter World. And then you end up customizing the side character you get to, and then you start the game. You start out as a new player who just so happens to be the central character because of something lucky. You find a rare item which happens to be like this uber rare version of like this side assistant character that everybody wants, and that's about it. There's nothing else about your character besides that. Even the like side character you get talks more. Instead, you just hit the A button to skip through these bland and dull cutscenes you couldn't give a shit about, and then you'll start hitting start once you find out that the cutscenes drag on and on and on. In fact, that's a lot of this game. When you start this game out, you get this dull, boring story force fed into your face, and it feels like games like Neptunia minus the fan service and shitty plot, where you're waiting over and over and over and over and over for these fucking cutscenes to finish, just so you can get to the gameplay and start shooting some shit. Once you skip these cutscenes, you get lots and lots of loading screens left and right, and then you get thrust into like these long-ass tutorials that seem to go on forever, with mission objectives like, talk to this person between load scenes, let them talk, loading, loading, loading. And there's load screens everywhere. There's even load screens when skipping cutscenes as the characters stand around with no dialogue. Now, since this story is so dull, it's not even worth talking about. It's just the same cliched bullshit. So let's talk about the gameplay. So what's the gameplay like? Well, it mixes the presentation format of an MMO with the gameplay of a loot shooter. You shoot enemies that are generic and respawn often with levels, take hits off their health bar and get the loot. Then you shoot more enemies and you level your character up more because you have to grind a shitload. And then you level up and you get money and more points to customize your character with. And then you shoot more enemies and you shoot more enemies and you shoot more enemies, and it's boring as shit. It's just not fun or satisfying at all. The AI of both your teammates and the enemies you fight is very inconsistent. You can take a decent chunk off an enemy's health bar before they'll notice, and then all of a sudden you might get attacked a bunch or worse. A one-hit kill that takes you out faster than you can say, "What the fuck just happened? God damn!" In fact, while in games like Halo, the enemy might take off some of your HP because they're just shooting at random parts at you. You only get shot in one zone in Sword Art Online, and that's the head. You can even see dots pointing at your head, ready to take you out. It feels just like like you're that guy in the movie getting fucking sniped with all those red dots over you, and you're like, oh shit. Despite having the gameplay of a color-based shooter, there's no cover system. You just have to use whatever object is behind you to cover yourself. And these aren't always in plain sight. Anyhow, the aiming sucks dick. Sometimes you'll shoot at things and bullets will get stuck somewhere. Or even better, the reload button won't work. Because, see, the game doesn't auto-reload like most shooters. Instead, you have to hit the button, which doesn't work half the time. So when you hit fire, it'll start to reload for you, wasting time. Instead of going into an open world, you go into mission areas, kind of like the Phantasy Star games. And while you do the same objectives in the same world with nothing to set it apart, especially because the writing is fucking snoozeworthy. I mean, who gives a shit about this? MMO, VR, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about this game's writing. I just want to fucking shoot some shit, don't you know? This game offers absolutely nothing new or innovative in the gameplay department aside from managing to cram in tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of tutorials down your throat for a basic third-person shooter RPG. The game is powered by the Unreal Engine 4, despite looking like a typical Asian PS3 game if it were made on the Unreal Engine 3. You got the cel-shaded characters that are kind of cel-shaded against a more realistic-looking background, and you've got the Unreal Engine look, too. It even runs at the Lock 30 with drops frame rate many PS3 games run at, and the only thing it's missing is the feel of holding a DualShock 3 and the PS3 slow firmware, and an error message saying it couldn't connect to PSN. If I had to pick one game this generation to sum up everything wrong with Japanese games in the last gen and this gen, it would have to be this game. It's a soulless cash grab with not too much more technical expertise than a compile heart video game. At least many bland Japanese games like modern Square Enix titles have lots and lots of flash and polish, and yet this game lacks even that. I mean, I played Monster Hunter World. It was a meh game, but it was heavily polished. And then this game looks about on the level of Mass Effect from 2007 minus the pop-in. It plays like a bad bargain bin shooter, but it isn't so bad so that it's a fun party game like Sonic 06 is. Where you can pop that game in and you can fucking laugh at that shit with your friends because it's funny cuz hey, look, it's a glitchy piece of shit. This is just boring bad. It's just a boring ass fucking game. It's a boring ass game that's like it's just not fun to play at all. You can't win at it because like you can't have fun. I mean, you could beat it, sure, but like you're never gonna have fun playing this yawn-worthy piece of shit game. But hey, it says Sword Art Online on it, so every weeb at the local anime con will be buying this game up to play it for a few weeks when they're not cosplaying before spending their mommy's credit card on another trashy game that has anime girls in it. Yeah, you love Sword Art Online, you got the anime girls in it, I'm gonna buy this game, ta. Hey, haters, fuck all the haters, man. Great game, Sword Art Online's good anime. Sword Art Online's good anime. Don't buy this game. Don't fucking buy Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet for the Xbox One or PS4 or whatever the fuck. Don't buy this game. That's all that needs to be said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more gamers.